It is day 50 of the 1 year fast. Day 50. I feel like celebrating. It's been easy, actually, getting to day 50. I thought I would struggle. Again, the protocol of the 1 year fast is for me to fast for 3 days per week for 52 consecutive weeks. Stepping into week 8, today's day 50. Again, it's been relatively easy. So I'm hopeful that to get to the end of the 1 year fast, so what are we now, about 1/6 of the way, well, 1/7 of the way through the 1 year fast, to get to the 1 year fast is definitely not insurmountable. So over the course of the next 52 weeks, I'm really hopeful. Of course, it's all, God willing, that still breathing during the course of that period of time, but feeling really hopeful, feeling really positive. And overall, I feel the effects have been pretty good. So I had a couple of moments when I felt really exhausted, but I'm definitely feeling a lot more alert during the course of the 1 year fast. Lost a few pounds. Again, the purpose of the 1 year fast is not about weight loss, but I've lost a few pounds. I'm hoping when I go back for my DEXA scan in another couple of months, it's going to show a good positive body composition improvement there. My first DEXA scan prior to the 1 year fast was not too impressive. So hopefully we can see some improvement based upon partaking of the 1 year fast. Okay, day 50. It's Sunday. Today is a non-fasting day. I'm going to step into fasting tomorrow and Tuesday for week 8, and then also again on Thursday. So the 3 days for this week will be Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. One 48-hour fast and one 24-hour fast. And again, feeling really good, really positive. Again, the reason for the videos is really for me to have a documented library of how I'm acting in terms of mental, psychological, emotional, spiritual health. And Sunday is always a good day to discuss the spiritual side in a really clumsy way that I do. So I mentioned last week, in my opinion, you cannot put the divinity in a box. Divinity transcends all human interpretation, all human nomenclature. Divinity is above us by virtue of being omnipotent. I don't believe we can apply some kind of taxonomy to divinity. Divinity, by its virtue, by its nature, is above us. Therefore, to call God by certain names or divinity by certain names is really redundant. And I suppose when we think about divinity, what should divinity be for us, regardless of our religion or the name we apply to the divinity? I suspect in certain ways we could all agree that we would look to the divinity to be that parent figure that could help and guide us through our spiritual life. And as part of that, I guess we're looking at certain terms, and these terms are very basic. Terms such as harmony and peace and temperance, and I guess the golden word would be love. How do we kind of manifest those words in a way that transcends or traverses all the different interpretations and nomenclature that we use for divinity? Again, it's a really tough topic, but I would just summarize the topic as you cannot put divinity in a box. But I was born and raised an Anglican. So of course, from a heritage perspective, I do kind of lean towards that particular faith. Just, of course, you become very disconcerted when you look at the structure of the Anglican faith, built on the licentious appetite of Henry VIII. That's probably not a good foundation for a religion, but that is what it is fundamentally. Of course, within that there's a context of being Protestant against the indulgences and the excesses of the then Roman Catholic Church. But fundamentally, the Anglican Church is not built on a very good foundation. But that said, still part of the Christian spectrum, a spectrum from high church to low church. And when we think about Anglicanism as a high church institution. It ties into a lot of the Catholic beliefs. We start to think about Christ himself and things like the Last Supper. And obviously all of that really is, I guess, the fundamental part of the Christian faith. The Last Supper, when Christ talks about, this is my flesh, this is my blood, and hands his disciples bread and wine as representations of his body and blood, and talks about this being a new era, a new age. No longer a need to butcher for sacrifice. This is a new type of sacrifice. This is self-given. This is divine sacrifice. It becomes a really deep conversation. You then look at the liturgies around the Christian denominations, and you particularly look towards the Roman Catholic Church, and they're really almost verbatim interpretation of the Last Supper. That wafer transforms via transubstantiation from a wafer into the flesh of Christ. And again, the wine transforms via transubstantiation, literally transforms from wine to blood. And then of course there's other interpretations as you kind of move along the spectrum of that. There's consubstantiation, where there's a belief that there is not a literal transformation, but there is a belief that within the wafer or the bread, therein lies the flesh of Christ too. So you still have bread, but within that you have the flesh. Or the wine, still the wine, but within the wine you have the blood. Consubstantiation. And then of course, I think probably this is what the majority believe, it's more of an allegory. So not literal transformation, but just an interpretation through allegory. This is my flesh, this is my blood. And demonstrating that divine sacrifice. It really is a really quite beautiful religion. It's almost poetic. As are all religions, to the devotees, of course. Yeah. Okay, so day 50 of the 1 year fast. I'm feeling really well. I feel it's been very, very positive so far. I'm looking forward to going into week 8, building up that momentum. Again, I'm going to go back for my DEXA scan, and that's going to be really insightful to help me understand, has there been a meaningful shift in my body composition? Also, it's going to be interesting just to see the trajectory of my weight. Again, 1 year fast is not about weight loss, but what does it mean? Do I see a downward shift? And we talked about yesterday, could that lead to sarcopenia? But then we also, we discovered that in fact, when you fast, there's a surge of human growth hormone naturally within the body that does in some way work to defend against sarcopenia. I want to also get into the conversation around, okay, what does that mean by extension? Does it mean if there's a surge of HGH during fasting, not only does it help us in terms of defending against potential sarcopenia, but also could it mean that there's the opportunity for some hypertrophy? You can actually see lean mass growth. That'd be quite interesting. And maybe I'll do some research on that. Okay, so day 50, stepping into a 48-hour fast tomorrow, which will be Monday and Tuesday, and then taking a break on Wednesday, and then stepping into a fast on Thursday for 24 hours. Yeah, I guess that's me. Well, thank you.